and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Keith, would you take roll, please?
Certainly. Chairman Fox,
Here.
Jeff Newsom,
Here.
Mike Mitchell,
Here.
Joe Kalani,
Here.
Sue Grissom, Tom Murphy.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you very much. Next up, item 4, approval of our meeting agenda.
So moved. Support.
Motion from Commissioner Newsom, second from Commissioner Mitchell. Any changes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next up, approval of our November 7, 2019 meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Voigt, second from Commissioner Murphy. Any changes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next up, item 6 is call to the public. If you're here for item 7A, hang on, you'll have your opportunity. We've got some special time set up for you during that particular agenda item. So anybody for anything but item 7A? Oh. Come on forward if you'd like. If you could, give us your name, address, and what would you like to add?
We're with the 8A, the wings, et cetera. Jim Luce?
Oh, you're going to be invited up
You want, oh, okay.
during 8A.
During
You'll be
8A.
right A.
Okay.
You'll be right
I
up
wondered if
there.
you wanted anything other than. All
Yep,
right.
no, we won't do it without asking for you. You're good. So anybody else? We'll close item 6, call to the public. We're going to open up item 7A, which is a public hearing. This is a rezoning. The way this is going to work this evening in a public hearing is in one moment here, I'll open it up. We'll turn the floor over to our township planner who will review the project for us and introduce it. We will have anybody come forward at a point that we call for public comments, and then we'll close the public hearing. So with that, what we're going to do is open the public hearing at 7:03 p.m. for the applicant Heartland Township. The applicant has requested to rezone approximately 42 parcels from OS Office Service to SR Suburban Residential located in Section 22 of Heartland Township. The list of subject parcels and location map are provided as attachments in the December 12, 2019 Heartland Township Planning Commission meeting agenda memorandum submitted by Troy Langer, our planning director. And just for the record, all public notice requirements have been met. So with that, turn the floor over to Troy.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Let me start off by showing a zoning map of Heartland Township. This is a zoning map of Heartland Township here, and the area that we're going to be looking at just to the east of US 23, which would be right here running north and south, and then this being M59 heading east. The area we're looking at is this blue area right in this general area here, just north of Handy Lake. Now, the properties that actually have frontage on M59 have been mostly developed as office and exist, but directly behind that, all of these lots in through here are actually residential. There's 42 properties. One of them is vacant, so there's 41 homes there that are zoned office service. This came to our attention towards the end of this summer. One of those residents, and I can't remember his name, he lives there, wanted to do an addition to his house. Being that it's zoned office and being that single-family residential is not permitted in the office district, that structure was deemed to be a structure devoted to a non-conforming use. Our ordinance says you cannot enlarge or expand structures devoted to a non-conforming use, so therefore he could not do his addition. That led me, under plan and report, shortly thereafter, came to the Planning Commission and asked, you have any recollection as to why this area was zoned office, what led to that. There was very little historical information available in the files on it. There was no recollection, so I requested that the township could be the applicant for all of these areas as opposed to any one particular person having to gear up and get everybody involved. I received that permission to move forward with that. We've did the notice on that. Essentially, you're looking at 42 properties here. They're all primarily developed. I'll try to zoom in a little bit. I can only click on one of these properties at a time, so I apologize. But you can see these are all, for the most part, homes that were constructed in the 50s and 60s. This is a platted subdivision that was done in the early 50s, and then shortly thereafter would have been homes. Most of these lots are approximately 50-foot wide by maybe 100 and so feet deep. Some are a little bit larger than that, but this is the area that we're talking about, and that is to make all of these homes SR, which would be consistent with the yellow that's directly to the south. So effectively, we would be moving this line up so that it would incorporate those homes here. In a nutshell, that's what the request is. I've outlined in the staff report some of the history and outlined the reasons that we believe this meets. It's consistent with the future land use map designation on that property as well. And if you have any questions or comments, just let me know.
Okay, so what we're going to do, if anybody is here that would like to comment on this, we'll take your comments. Then we're going to close the public hearing, and then the Planning Commission has a staff review, some specific steps that we need to go through to consider the actual application, and we'll do that after the close of the public hearing. So right now, is anybody in the audience that wants to speak in regards to this? If you want to come up, your choice, podium or seat, give us your name, address, and anything you'd like to add.
My name's Josh Moreland. Address is 11518 Broadview Street. So I am in that affected area, and I was actually the one that had spoken to you about the change. My wife and I have been living here for about 8 years now. We have a 3-year-old daughter. We're just kind of looking to expand. Space is getting tight. We were kind of in the process of doing that, and then we realized that we actually can't because we're zoned office space right now. So any addition that we want to make, we won't be able to do that until it's changed. So I just want to say that we're looking forward to the change. I think it doesn't make too much sense right now in that area being office space, and we're looking to move forward and do our expansions.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, so we will close the public hearing at 7:09. And Planning Commission, we have a staff review letter dated December 12th. I'm looking at either packet page 10 or page 4 of the actual staff review letter. There are some criteria that we have to go through. Some of them may seem rather simple and easy in this particular case, but in order to follow the ordinance and the guidelines that have been set forth, we need to at least have a top discussion on these items. So if we look at the first item, about halfway down, zoning ordinance rezoning criteria that we have to use, section 743A, consistency with the adopted comprehensive plan. Troy, we're talking about future land use maps of medium urban density, and we're pretty much aligning with what that is.
Yeah, so this is the future land use map for that area, and I'll zoom in on that. And you can see on that the blue would be office, but this brown with the red dots on it here is that medium urban density residential category, which is consistent with the SR zoning category. So this rezoning would match what the intended future land use map is for that area, which only leads to more questioning as to why this was in an office district to begin with, but there it is.
And I would just say in 15 years that I've been around, we've never been asked and it wasn't picked up. Just map oversight, I guess, from back in the days of the Wild Wild West. So we have section 743B is next, compatibility with the site's physical, geological, hydrological, and other environmental features. Pretty much, it's already developed, it's a subdivision, it's pretty much compatible with everybody around them. Any comments on any of that?
No.
743C, reasonable return on investment with the current classification of OS. How do you answer that question? Obviously, that it's residential now, so it's not like we're converting vacant land.
No, it's, some of those criteria probably may seem a little more geared towards vacant land that you're rezoning. In this case, it's already developed. It's been developed for 50-plus years in some respects. In fact, as I've made some comments, I'm surprised that as the homeowners in this area have from time to time have sold these properties, that the Buyers Lending Institute didn't cause question about the mortgage in the event that the structure were to be destroyed by greater than 50%, they would not be able to rebuild a single-family home with that office designation. So I'm surprised some lending institute along the way hadn't raised that issue as well. So,
Everybody good with that one? All righty, so we're on the next page, on packet page 11, page 5 of the actual letter, section 743D, compatibility of all potential uses allowed in the proposed SR district with surrounding uses and zoning. Pretty much their neighbors are all SR, so I would assume that you'd probably much be compatible.
Yeah.
Everybody agreeing? Okay. Section 743E, capacity of the infrastructure and other public services in the street system. We're all on wells over there and public sewer. That's what our neighbors are. Would think that everything works.
Yep.
743F, compatibility of the street system to accommodate the expected traffic generation allowed for the requested zoning district. Again, it's already there. It's been functioning that way. 743G, parent demand for uses permitted in the requested zoning district. Basically, what we're saying is this is just going to put the zoning compatible with what's there, which is compatible with everything around it. Everyone good with that? I have to ask, I know the answer. 743H, ability to comply with the zoning regulations. I would think that's what this is doing. So I'm over on packet page 6, or packet page 12, page 6 of the memo itself. 743I, appropriateness of the requested zoning district. So we're already talked that this lines up with the future land use map. So I think we're all okay there. 743J, amendment of permitted and special uses versus a rezoning. I guess this is just another one of those we have to cover, but everything's fine.
Yes.
Okay, 743K, exclusionary or spot zoning. I think by your very definition of it, this is not that. The surrounding residential properties are already zoned SR, so there couldn't be spot zoning. Now on page 7, packet page 13, section 743L, submittal of a similar request within 1 year. We haven't seen that. This is something that was just discovered a few months ago, as Troy mentioned. And 743M, any other factors? There are none listed here. Can anybody see anything that needs to be discussed?
No.
Okay, I honestly think this was a slip of the colored pencil back a long time ago, and it just never came up. To me, it's shocking that improvements to properties haven't even happened since I've been around, that this hasn't come up. It's not an area of development. It's not something that the Planning Commission would have looked at with a magnifying glass as we have in other areas as developments have been reviewed. So we've pretty much covered the whole process. Basically, you're telling us we're going to make a recommendation to the Township Board, and then the Township Board will act accordingly based upon the information that we send them. So if you are so inclined, on the first page of the December 12th letter, packet page number 7, you'll find a recommended motion at the top.
The Planning Commission recommends approval of the rezoning based on the following findings. 1, the requested zoning of the subject property to SR zoning classification is consistent with the Township Comprehensive Development Plan, which indicates the property should be developed as medium urban density residential. 2, the subject property is currently developed and used in a single-family residential use, and the rezoning will permit those property owners to use their property in a more conforming manner. And 3, the requested rezoning of the subject property to SR, suburban residential zoning, classification is compatible with the surrounding uses and zoning and is more appropriate than the current OS, office service, zoning classification.
Support.
Okay, so we have a motion to recommend approval from Commissioner Voigt, second from Commissioner Kalani. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Congratulations, congratulations to all your neighbors, and we apologize for this oversight of many years. All right, have a great night. So let's move along to item 8A. There you go. 8A will be site plan application number 19-013, Wings, et cetera. If you guys want to come on up, what we're going to do is we're going to let our planning director introduce your project, and then we'll turn it over to you for anything you'd like to add, and then we've got a short review letter from staff that we'll go through. So Troy, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. This request by Wings, et cetera, I'll go back to the zoning map here, and we'll show you where they're located. Again, this is US 23 and M59, and they are effectively, if you were to go west on M59 near at the intersection Old 23 and then south, this area here that is red, they are within this development just south of M59 and kind of sandwiched between Old US 23 and US 23. And I have a site plan. Nope, not that. This one. So this is the site plan. I'll zoom in here. Just bear with me. This would be Old 23 at the bottom of the monitor. And then what's not really being shown is there's quite a bit of vacant land to the east of that before you actually get to 23. But there are 2 buildings on this in this development. And what they are proposing is to occupy this south portion of this northernmost building with a new restaurant, Wings, et cetera, restaurant, bar, and they desire to do 2 things that requires the Planning Commission approval. One is they want to add to the back of the building a walk-in cooler freezer, and that would have a screen wall that would surround it. That's in the back. And then the other one is an outdoor seating patio to the south of it in this location here. So those 2 things are site improvements that require Planning Commission approval of a site plan, and they are seeking approval of that. So with that, I'll just leave it open for any questions or comments you might have.
Great. Anything you guys would like to add? Introduce yourself.
Jim Luce,
Okay.
Todd Kirby.
Hi.
local residents. I've
You
been
looked familiar.
in Heartland since '97.
Okay.
4 kids in Heartland School.
Been here since '99. I have 2 kids in Heartland schools.
Oh, great, great. Anything you'd like to add? Tell us what you're doing beyond what Troy had mentioned.
Well, as far as the additions, I think Troy summed it up, because the space is a little tight, and that's one of the reasons that we need the coolers on the backside, the offset in the building. That the actual building next door is a little bit offset back, so actually the back of the building, the map, that it's the back of the building next door, which is Mackles, will actually be pretty close to where our cooler would be. So there's not that much of a real difference. We're looking just to push that out there a little bit to gain a couple hundred square feet and make the restaurant really feasible for it's a franchise out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, and there are certain types of limitations and sizes that they want that they know have been successful. They've done this about 90 times. So we're trying to follow the roadmap of success and guidance from their leadership at Wings, et cetera, the corporate office that is.
Perfect, perfect. Did you guys get a copy of the staff letter? You probably saw it. So what we're going to do is make sure we cover everything. We'll run through that briefly. It'll give us a chance to review the important components that we need to take care of. So I'm looking at a staff review letter dated December 12th, 2019, and I am starting on page 3, which would be packet page number 24. You'll see up at the top, as Troy had mentioned, there are 2 items we're really discussing. We're discussing the cooler enclosure and the outdoor patio seating. The rest of it is not a planning commission function. So if we start up at the top, we've already been given a site description. There's no impact assessment required at this time because the center is existing. The traffic already exists, so there'll be no traffic generation discussed. One of the items we need to talk about, the patio and the outdoor seating, we do have some standards for that. Looks like everything's okay, but let's just run through it real quick here. We have a requirement for a sidewalk adjacent to the establishment. You already have that, and I believe you're going to add that around the cooler so that the sidewalk can continue as it currently does. Now I'm on page 4. There are requirements by the state of Michigan for the alcohol beverages being served, and it looks like you're meeting all the requirements that they have and that we have. Capacity, we can't be more than 25% of the seating of the total establishment. Looks like you're down to about 23%, so everything looks good there, if everyone's fine with that. Screening. Okay, we're talking about screening of the cooler at that point?
No.
Because I'm in the seating.
This is the outdoor seating.
Right.
And they have a fence there, but the ordinance just basically says, as determined by the planning commission, so there's no way we can determine ahead of time until we're here.
I think it yeah.
Does that fence?
And it looks like the Mackles fence.
Yeah.
Then it's not good enough. Just kidding. Everybody fine with the Mackles fence around?
Yes.
Okay. Pedestrian circulation, it looks like we're going to be just fine. And any requirements will be dealt with in regards to seating arrangement outside their aisle clearances and doorway at the construction permitting process. Parking spaces existing, staff has gone through the calculations. We have enough parking over there. Furniture requirements, you've got what they are. You haven't picked it. Staff can review that with you at that time. Waste disposal, looks like you can use the dumpsters that are there. There's enough room.
That's correct.
Okay. Any comments on any of that so far? No.
It might be just worthwhile noting that in the event that those dumpsters don't work and they want to add another dumpster out there, that it has to be in an enclosure that would match what's out there.
Are you going to have a grease trap or a grease container?
Yes,
Is
we
there
are.
room for
Exterior.
both of those then?
I'm sorry?
Do you have room for both the waste and the grease?
There's going to be a grease trap outside, yep,
Okay.
in the ground.
I think the grease trap is inside the freezer enclosure, isn't it? No?
No,
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 or not within the block wall?
Enclosure already?
no.
Okay.
It'll be outside of that block wall.
Okay.
And the way it's looking, it'll be on the east side of the sewer line and then tie back in.
Okay.
So that's a below surface, below grade?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. If we can back up to the fenced-in area question.
Yep.
So your outdoor seating, is there currently an outdoor seating?
No,
There's not. So on the plans, I'm just looking kind of far ahead, and the picture says temporary awning?
I'm not sure why it says, I never even noticed, I'm not sure why it says
Okay,
temporary.
yeah.
It's going to be an awning similar to what Mackles has.
Okay.
We're planning on a black awning.
Is that a fabric?
Yes.
Yeah.
Canvas.
All right.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Hours of operation, this one seems odd for your location, but we have to treat everybody the same. Where we get outdoor dining backing up to residential, that's why there are some hours of operation requirements, but it looks like you're going to comply with all of those, and Heartland's lights typically go off before
Right.
the time that you're required to close. Seasonal operation, you're still working within, it's winter, so I assume you're not doing anything in the winter. Furniture storage is discussed there. We're on page 6, packet page 27, no new lighting, pretty much going with what's out there.
Correct.
And then noise requirements, you know the regulations, so live bands at 11 PM could be a problem, but maybe not.
There won't be anybody around.
That's, so you've been in Heartland at 11. Patron entrance and exit, you know the laws with alcohol and fencing and alarmed gates for those exiting and leaving the dining area.
Yes.
Yeah, the food and beverage and the requirements of the Liquor Control Commission are just there. They're not our jurisdiction. Display and advertising, it's all signage requirements is staff approved, so anything that you do will go through them. I am on page 7. Touched on parking, and parking was fine. Architectural building materials, I know they had visited the site with this block or this brick. It's similar to what the building is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same.
We were able to track down the company that actually did the building, so.
So this is kind of the back of the building. What we did is we went out there, this is the front of the building, but what we did is, if I can find it, there. So you can see that exact sample, that's right there, we just leaned it up against, and you can see how it matches. Just so you know, the walk-in cooler freezer is kind of one of these transportable metal-sided items that they're proposing to kind of just sit on the ground out there. That by itself is not permitted, so they have to build a screen wall of this material that will match the building, which they are proposing to do.
Comments on that? Okay. Looks like we have no other ordinance standards. DPW has a letter. Fire marshal has a letter. You guys okay with everything everybody's had to say?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for him this evening?
So this is going to sound real small, but, which is good for you. When I look over the plan, north is actually pointing to the east on several of the sheets. That's all I have. So that's good.
That would be good. Anybody else have anything? If not, there is a recommended motion on the first page of the staff review letter, if you are so inclined.
So yes, I can. I move to approve site plan application 19-013, a request to amend the approved site plan and install a walk-in cooler, walk-in freezer, and utility area with a ground-mounted compressor unit, all of which will be screened with a masonry wall enclosure on the rear of the building, east side of the building. Additionally, the applicant is proposing an outdoor seating dining area on the south side of the building at 1788 Old US 23. Approval is subject to the following conditions. 1, the applicant shall adequately address the outstanding items noted in the planning department's memorandum dated December 12, 2019 on the construction plan set, subject to an administrative review by the planning staff prior to the issuance of a land use permit. 2, specification sheets for all furnishings for outdoor seating dining areas shall be submitted with the land use permit application and are subject to the requirements outlined in section 4.47 of the township zoning ordinance. 3, applicant complies with any requirements of the planning requirements of the Department of Public Works Director and Heartland Deerfield Fire Authority and all other government agencies as applicable.
Support.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Murphy, a second from Commissioner Mitchell to approve site plan application 19-013 for wings, et cetera. Any other further discussion?
Do we need to add that portion about if they have to expand the area that?
Screen wall?
No, I don't, I just
don't
wanted
think
to
so?
make a note that if they decide they do need a dumpster,
A dumpster, okay.
that they will have to increase that dumpster enclosure, and it will have to match the building materials that are out there. I just want to kind of put them on record of notice of that.
Okay. Good with that, Joe?
Yep.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Welcome.
hope to see you in there soon.
You can take that if you want. You can leave it if you want to, but
Next up is item 8B, site plan application 19-010. This is the Walden Woods Campground improvements. We have 2 chairs. All right. So what we'll do is we'll turn it over to Troy. He'll introduce it. Please, after that, add anything you'd like, and we'll do the same thing over again. We'll review the letter. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right.
thank
It's all
you.
yours.
Thank you. The property under consideration for this request is the Walden Woods property. This is, again, the zoning map, US 23 here, M59 going here, and then old 23 kind of coming up and paralleling. And in this case, old 23 and 23 are very close to each other. This is the general area that we're looking at for that development. You can somewhat see the roads in here for the campground site and the Lake Walden here. What I've got is a site plan with old 23 just beyond the limits of this site plan. This is kind of the existing campground. So they have an entrance that will come in here, and then this is their campground. What they are proposing to do, if I can find, this is the site plan that, here it is. So on this site plan, it kind of is oriented differently, so bear with me. Old 23 would be to the top, and as you come in to the development, they are proposing somewhat of a new road that would come back in through here. So these are new campsites that they're proposing. So everything you see that's kind of in a dark gray configuration are new campsites in total. There's, I think it's 76 new campsites they are proposing. Some of it, such as in this area, they're kind of reconfiguring a little bit over here. These are south of their new road in this area. We had been meeting informally, the Site Plan Review Committee and staff with this particular applicant. It was probably over a year ago, and we talked with them about certain safety improvements that we encourage them to do as part of this, any expansion of this campground. And so I'll try to point those out. One of them was to have an emergency access in the event that the main access is blocked or is unavailable. So a secondary access. So what they are proposing up here, this is their secondary emergency access that would come into the site, and then it ties into an existing, a gravel, kind of a parking area, drive area for their swimming pool area for their campground facility. So this would be a secondary emergency access. There's a gate here. The gate would have The fire authority would have a Knox box and would be able to get through that, but just the general public could not access their site through this. And then the second one, there's really a limitation on water. So if the fire department were to have to fight a fire out here, water availability is a major hurdle. So we'd ask them to install what they call a dry hydrant. And I don't profess to know what exactly this stuff is, but essentially it's a tube that goes out to the lake that they can get water from the lake, and from that they can use it to fight fires. It was thought that the best location for this would be down near their existing lodge. We looked at a couple different locations, and ultimately the applicant agreed and has installed that dry hydrant in this location. And you can see on the site plan that it extends out into the lake quite a distance, and that allows for the water truck to come up and then connect to it and get water, and then they can transport that much closer to the lodge if that were to catch fire. So those are the main things that were discussed and outlined to the applicant to do. This is how they've done that. This is the expansion of the campground area. There's very detailed plans. They're some 33 pages long. They outline the grading changes. What I'm going to do is just kind of leave that up to them to kind of explain it in detail. I'm just giving you kind of a cursory look of the entire project, and if you've got questions, I'll be available to help answer.
Great. It's all yours.
Good evening,
Wayne
thank
is.
you. Wayne Perry here tonight with Design Engineering. With me is Brian Kraus from Walden Woods, if you have any questions. Obviously, the explanation you received was fairly thorough, and your written packet is fairly concise as to the improvements. We really, truly did not set out to make the most complicated set of plans you've ever seen, but that's kind of how it looks like it ended up. The expansion and improvements to the campground, as Mr. Langer indicated, are really in 5 different areas. And the emergency access drive, so that there's a second means of ingress and egress, kind of stands by itself. That's something that the fire department has been looking for, and the township has been looking to have done, and Brian has agreed to have that installed. The dry hydrant out into the lake, once again, that's something the fire department's looking for. It's a safety device. That will be installed. Not exactly an easy task to build that out into the lake, but it's truly a replacement for one that currently exists down near the Cromaine Lodge in the detention basin. And invariably, dry hydrants in detention basins don't work very long, and that's kind of what happened here. It's also, when was that put in, do you know?
I don't.
Ages ago. So the new one will replace the existing one that is down there by the Cromaine Lodge. Beyond that, there are 3 campsite expansions. And the picture on the screen is rotated 90 degrees. North is to the left. The picture I have here is exactly the same one, but north is up, if you can orient yourself a little better. So the expansion up in the northerly part of the campground was something that you as the planning commission looked at a year plus ago. We had a number of units up there. As indicated, we're reconfiguring those and changing the layout primarily to accommodate the cabin type or cottage style camping that they are trying to institute and get started in Walden Woods. You have a couple out there now. We have photographs of the ones that are out there at Walden Woods right now. That's what the cottage style units look like. These will be up in this northerly section. In addition, to the south, which is over on the right-hand side of that picture, but the southerly expansion, which is down through here, is another group of cabins That's an area that was originally shown as sites in the original master plan development for the Walden Woods Campground. They were never constructed, they were never put in. At this point, they want to put those in. So those were on the original master plan. Then the new area, which is off to the east, fills in additional campsites or camping sites within the existing campground, as well as the expansion road out on the east side adjacent to the golf course. So those are the 5 areas of improvements that we're looking at. Now, with regard to a couple of items, and in going through the report that you received, there was a question as to the slope on the berm. And the berm is located, the existing berm is located,
Goes through where the campsites are.
Troy, I don't know if you got that sheet in there.
I do.
DR 2.2.
So it takes a little bit for them to come up, but
Oh, we got all night.
No, we don't.
Oh. Yes, we don't. Sorry about that. Okay, so here, I'll make this quite simple.
No, you're good, I'm joking.
The existing berm, which is located along the easterly boundary of the campground, between the campground and the golf course, you know which golf hole that is? I don't know which golf hole it is either. Okay, I was going to say, if you played golf, you might know which one it was. That berm has been there for a long time. It's about
24.
6 feet in, which one?
I think it's 24.
24? Okay. It's about 6 feet in height, a little higher in some places. And the berm is there. It essentially separates the campground from the golf course. From the campground side, it provides a sound barrier and access barrier from anybody in the campground, so they don't really head to the east. They don't head out onto the golf course. From the township standpoint, if you're looking from Old US 23 to the west, that berm and the trees on that berm kind of isolate the campground behind it, so you don't really see what's back there. We need to relocate a section of the berm in the south end. And this is the sheet our 2.2 that we had provided. I'm holding it in such a direction that north is now up. So we're going to take this existing berm that runs essentially north-south, and the southerly portion of it, where the new campsites are going, we're going to relocate it to the east, along the east property line. A majority of that berm will conform to the requirement of a 4-on-1 slope. Everything on the easterly side of the new berm will be 4-on-1, conforming to your ordinance, and a majority of everything on the west side will be as well. But to keep the height of the berm up where it currently is at about 6 feet, there's a short section, and you can see it right around, right in there, campsites G19 through G14. That short section, we're making 3-on-1 so that we can keep the berm up at the same height, maintain the same aesthetics from the road, and maintain the same barrier qualities on the campground side. So that 3-on-1 slope is a little steeper than your ordinance currently requires. This is not your typical berm out in front of a commercial office building where you are going to be mowing it, maintaining it, people may be walking across it. This is not going to be a maintained berm. None of that berm currently is. It's not mowed, it's not taken care of. In fact, the whole issue is to keep it there as a separation between the two functions, the golf course and the campground. So we're not looking to create a berm where people are going to be walking across it and you're going to be picnicking on it, so to speak. So we thought it was appropriate to keep the berm at the same height as everything else that's out there to increase the slope on the inside so that we could provide the sites that are proposed, the new sites that are being proposed on the east side of the drive. The other area that is noted in the review, I'm going to make you work for your money tonight, Troy. You got to jump to that other page. Is that GR 2.1? GR 1.2. 1.2.
I think that's up.
It's the other way.
There is a small sedimentation basin that we need to construct. We'll get there. That's right there. Excellent. There's a small sedimentation basin right down there on what is the west side of the drive. It's right in there. And once again, the slopes on the east side of that sedimentation basin, we have shown it 3-on-1 instead of 4-on-1. Can we make them 4-on-1? We can. It simply means we have to push the sedimentation basin to the west, do more earthwork, clear more trees. And the one thing we're trying to not do out here is clear any more trees than we absolutely have to, because it's well-maintained, they're beautiful old, most of those are oaks, there's some maples, they're gorgeous trees. And if we have to go to 4-on-1 slopes, we push that whole thing west, and we have to clear a whole other group of trees. And so that's why we did it, that's what we're trying to do. So with that, we're here to answer any questions, go over any of the details in the plan that you may have.
Perfect. Well, let's grab that staff letter, because he's got the couple points we need to talk about. This one is dated December 12th also. You guys must have been busy on the 12th.
Yes.
They're all dated the 12th. And I am on page 3 of that letter, 41, packet page 41, just down at the bottom, just noting that this is not a complete site plan review. We're only going to be discussing the areas that are in need of improvement, so you won't see some of the things that we might talk about normally. And now I'm flipping over to page 4, and we're going to just talk about the additional campsites. They currently have 33. They're talking about adding 333. They're talking about adding 6, and some of them are going to have the cabins on them. Is there any thoughts? Are you guys having any issues with the expansion of the campground and adding 76 sites per se? We'll talk about wastewater here. Your facility will handle this plus more.
Yes.
So in regards to that, it would appear as though everything would be fine. Is it working for you guys? Go ahead.
I'm going to talk about these cabins. How many cabins are you planning on building? Is it going to be completely, that whole area is all going to be cabins?
Cabins are on the north end,
There's 2 sections.
northwest, and the south.
Correct.
How many units is that approximately? Additions.
About 28 units.
So just so everybody knows, they're called cabins, but they're really probably more like a trailer. They come on wheels. They have a facade that looks like a log cabin, but from our standpoint as staff, they're really no different than a camper that would be sitting on the site in the same way. They're just, people can rent them, is that correct? As opposed to hauling their own camper in there, they could drive in with their car and then just rent this. That's how, at least we as staff looked at these.
Yeah, I think when we looked at them a year and a half ago, that's what they were.
That's correct.
Is that okay, Joe? Understanding it? Okay. Next paragraph, reconfiguring of the existing berm east of the site. I think the greatest concern for me would have been the visual from the outside at the 4 to the 1, and the safety, I think, are probably, grades are set more for digging holes in the ground than they are for going uphill. Is that, for the most part, what what your interpretation would be?
With respect to detention or retention basins, yes.
Yeah.
But there was a provision for landscape berms of 4 to 1.
Okay.
But that's generally like a 4-foot high berm. This is a 6-foot high berm, and it's this, I think it's 180-foot length area, where on the back side, not the outward side of this site, but on the back side, the campground site, it's at a 3 to 1.
The berm right now is probably at what?
It's
1 to 1?
1 to 1, or thereabouts.
So when you look at it right now, I mean, it's pretty steep if you've ever paid attention to that driving along Old 23. So the backside in 180 feet is not going to be as steep as that.
So will some of the berm stay at 1 to 1, or are you working the whole berm?
Now, we're only reworking the southerly portion. So the remainder of the berm that goes on to the north, we're not going to touch at all. That's all going to stay just the way it is.
So the southern piece is 4 to 1, and we've got a 3 to 1 section of approximately 200 feet in the middle. It's kind of at the elbow in the berm.
Correct.
Everybody okay with
Yeah,
that?
my only comment is that moving the burn, I mean, but the slope's pretty close to being okay anyway, but the handling the stormwater runoff, it sounds like they're taking care of that, so. That was a concern I had, was making sure they captured that properly.
Yeah, everything within the easy way to explain this is everything that's, the berm currently runs right through here, north and south. All of the stormwater in the campground remains in the campground, and everything in this area here that's on the east side of the berm flows down out through the golf course. As we relocate the berm from here over to the property line, we'll be capturing all of that stormwater that's currently running out over the golf course, bringing it into the development and picking it up in the storm sewer system in the campground. So we'll be reducing the runoff onto the golf course and taking care of all of the stormwater runoff internally and routing it up to whatever detention is.
Everyone comfortable with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Proposed detention basin, there's where we got that, another 3 to 1. That is just on one side of it, basically?
It's on the roadside. What we're using, and it's actually not a detention basin, although we have it labeled that way, it's a sedimentation basin. It's only about 3 feet deep. And the purpose is to collect sediment from the runoff from the adjoining property before that stormwater is routed down into the lake. So that's all we're trying to do, is collect sediment, and we're using an existing natural low area adjacent to the road that's currently there. So we made it 1 on 3 because it fit in with the existing contours, the existing road location, and the existing hillside.
Is there going to be a fence around that area?
No,
Well, if,
it does not hold water.
well, and even if someone were in it, the other sides are not 3 to 1, they're less.
Correct.
You're 4 to 1, so if somebody were to get in there, they could climb out through the, I don't know, is there's really the other 2 sides, let's call it. Looks like a 3-sided hole in the ground.
Yes. It's a natural depression. Most of the slopes in and around this area are in the 1 on 4 range, but there are a lot of areas on the property that are up around 1 on 3 for slopes naturally occurring. So this is just one more small little spot where, once again, if we have to live with 1 on 4, we certainly can. We just have to move the low area farther away from the road to accommodate it and just clear more trees. And that's what we're trying to not do if we don't have to.
So the existing shape would stay the same? Is that what you're proposing? The 1 on 3 would be leave the contour as it exists?
Troy, can you get us to GR 1.2?
Yeah, I'm going to try.
It's a lot of pages.
No.
And
Right there. And zoom in on that spot. Okay. So if you could look right there in the center where Troy's cursor currently is, it says 1-on-3 slope. That's a small little depression that lies immediately to the west of the existing road. And that big black arrow is the center of the road exiting the campground. So the contours on the west side of this depression, it says 988, which then it goes down 987 and 986. We're leaving that all just the way it is. So then from the low spot, the embankment coming up to the road is the section that's 1-on-3. So it's just that side right over there. And it's only about 3 feet deep, and it's only about 40, 50 feet long.
So are you routing sediment into it?
All of the runoff from the area between these two roads naturally heads to that low spot. We are creating an outlet from that low spot, which is the control structure and the pipe, so that we can reduce the outflow rate from the low spot so the sediment has the ability to deposit there. Because from here, the runoff travels continuously down the lake.
And one of the reasons we have a 1 to 4 is that's something that's manageable to climb, to get in and out of. It's a public safety thing. That is one of the reasons we use a 1 to 4. My comment would be is that the rest of that pond is being graded out at a 1 to 4. It doesn't hold water. It may have water in it temporarily, but if someone were in there, they could turn around and walk out the other side at 1 to 4. I bet you could walk out 1 to 3, but the whole pond is not 1 to 3. If it were 1 to 3, I would probably say we would need to maybe consider a fence. But we have most of the pond not at that type of slope. So my opinion would be that it would be fine at 1 to 3 in that location. Would that work? Agree? Everybody okay with that?
Yep. Thanks for the explanation.
Okay. Proposed emergency access drive, any comments on it? Thank you.
Yeah, I guess, yes, a question, yeah. As it says on the bottom of 42, it says with a gate with Knox box. Is that a lock box?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just a checker tonight, sorry. North or, yeah.
Any other comments on that? We have the dry hydrant. Any comments on that, other than maybe a good idea? Get on your suit to drag that pipe out there, huh?
I don't think I'll be the one doing it, but okay.
And so,
Sounds
yeah,
like good training for the fire department dive team.
I guess a comment I would just have is, so the fire marshal asking you to do this, and it's in the area of the lodge, I think you call it. He must feel that that's sufficient for the whole property, for the campground portion also.
Yeah, the fire department will be able to come down to this location, hook up their pump truck, their tanker, and draw water out of the lake to fill their tanker truck and then haul it to anywhere they need to in the campground.
That's the process, yeah, okay.
And it's my understanding they've been and looked at this, and actually you guys all figured that out.
They have.
So they're okay with it. Their requirement is that they don't want to see any of this approved unless that's part of the deal. That was in the letter somewhere I had read.
Have they talked to you about a maintenance program on that? Are they going to do it, or are you guys going to do it? Usually they get flushed out once a year or twice, once every 2 years, just because of the sediment builds up in them.
Well, this one will be in a stone filter that's actually above the lake bottom.
Okay,
Unlike the ones, I mentioned the existing one that's out there in the detention basin, they tend to sediment up, and that is a problem. But here we're building it up above the lake bottom, in a bed of stone, so we won't have that sedimentation problem.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions on that? All right, last item up here, utility upgrades. I think I had mentioned, Wayne confirmed that they have plenty of capacity to handle the additions, and not all of these are direct connect, is my understanding anyways, to the sewer system, to your septic.
They're going to all be, right?
These are all going to
They're-
be serviced.
Yeah, oh, okay. I thought I had read that some of them weren't, and I was assuming they were the ones on the south, but you are connecting those.
No, the ones in the south will be connected. In fact, there's
Okay.
already a sewer line down there,
Okay,
so we'll be connecting into that. There are sites within the campground that are not connected.
okay, maybe that's what I was interpreting from there. All the consulting comments, we got fire marshal, DPW, fire authority, any comments? HRC, anything you want to add? All good with it?
We're good with all their comments.
Are you? Awesome.
Can I back up one thing?
certainly
Might went
can.
past it, But the added roads inside of the development or the resort, they're gravel?
Yes.
And the existing roads that service the campsites or camping areas also gravel?
A majority of them are, correct?
Majority of them are.
Yeah.
So similar materials, okay, yeah. I didn't know if I had the chance to maybe miss that earlier, but that was a question. Thank you.
Any other questions for him? Well, if you are so inclined, on page 1 of the staff letter, packet page 39, there is a motion.
I move to approve the site plan application number 19-010, which is a request to amend the original site plan with the following improvements. Construct 76 new campsites with a total of 409 campsites. Construct additional internal access roads. Construct a new emergency access drive. Provide for a new dry hydrant. Construct new sanitary service lines, water services, and utilities to provide service to the proposed and existing campsites, and reconfigure the landscape berm and construct detention basins for stormwater management for the proposed site improvement. Approval is subject to the following conditions. 1, the applicant shall adequately address the outstanding items noted in the planning department's memorandum dated December 12th, 2019, on the construction plan set and subject to an administrative review by the planning staff prior to the issuance of a land use permit. Number 2, applicant complies with any requirements of the township engineering consultant and the Heartland Deerfield Fire Authority and all other government agencies as applicable.
I'll support that.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve site plan application number 19-010 for the Walden Woods Campground improvements from Commissioner Mitchell, second from Commissioner Newsom. Further discussion, anyone?
Oh, just that, it's hole 15, not 24.
Oh, okay. Hole 15, not 24, correct those meeting
Now we
minutes.
got to start over, Joe.
Yeah, we got to go way back to it.
Anything else besides that correction? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Congratulations. Thank you. Glad business is going well, and you need to expand.
That's right.
That's great.
Up next, item 8C, Planning Commission calendar for 2020. Troy brought this out a couple weeks ago. Everybody have a chance to look at it. If we're all good, we would just need a motion and second to approve.
Motion to approve the presented 2020 calendar for the Planning Commission meetings.
Support?
We have a motion from Commissioner Voigt, second from Commissioner Murphy. Anyone else? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Call to the public. Anyone? Nope. Planners report. Troy.
I have nothing.
You don't want to ask about, you don't want to ask
Well,
about
Merry
the,
Christmas, huh?
you don't want to ask about the ORC for the menu boards?
Well, I had already mentioned to you previously that one of our local fast food restaurants, McDonald's, is not so much their particular restaurant, but corporation is changing over their menu boards to LED menu boards as opposed to the current type of menu boards, which have kind of a plastic panel. And of course, LED, they're like a big TV monitor. They're not permitted in our township under basically any circumstance. So they were asking if that is something that the township would be interested in amending the ordinance to do. That takes a zoning ordinance amendment. And we talked briefly about that. I was hoping that maybe we could have the ordinance review committee look at that topic in further detail at some point, January or February, but I need the permission from the planning commission to do so. So I wasn't sure if this would be an appropriate time to bring it up, or if you wanted to discuss it a little more and get some more background information in January, I could probably give you some more information on that.
Well, I guess the question is, what does it look like? I mean, I have no idea what we're even, I understand what you're asking or
Yeah.
proposing, but I have no visual idea what it looks like.
I have to go through
It
McDonald's
almost
and
looks
other
like
areas.
It almost looks like a flat screen TV, basically.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. It looks like your TV.
Changeable
Yeah,
all the
they're-
time.
And they can take
Very clear.
3 of those great big large lighted menu boards, consolidated to one monitor.
The issue in the past has always been that the legal advice to the township was to not permit any of that in the township unless you could find a way to not permit it where you wanted it. For example, do you want that as the entrance signs to do you want McDonald's sign to go away and them to put a big TV screen out front like you see in some communities? So that has always been something that has not been desired. So that is why they aren't permitted at all. The task here is to see if the ordinance review committee, with reviewing other communities that have menu boards, can find a way to permit menu boards, but not allow the business signage on the road frontage to change.
Okay.
That's the task.
If you want, at their meeting in January, I can include some material so you can see that, if that makes you feel more comfortable before you defer it to the ordinance review committee. Some pictures and maybe next time you're at a McDonald's, not here in Heartland, but at another one, because they're quite common if you get out. You probably don't dine at such establishments, but if you get a chance.
It's okay.
I could tell you, Mike, that I had the same fear in my visual that I made in my own mind. I wasn't looking forward to it, but after I saw a few examples, I think you'd be okay with them,
Just got to find a way to permit it where you want it.
where we want it.
Okay, I don't have a problem with that as long as we don't, okay, impose a new signage requirement on the street.
Right.
I mean, if we can separate it, that's
I
fine.
think
That's our goal.
that's their main task, is to find a way to do one without the other.
So, yeah, I think, I've seen a few of them, and do I dine there? Do I drink their coffee? I'm not bashful to say that I could dine there. But, yeah, the boards are very readable. To me, it's an improvement, the ones that I've passed.
Keep in mind also the brightness can be controlled as well. That was another concern with LEDs, is the brightness of it, especially in some drive-through properties that are close to residential. So that can be managed, the brightness, so.
Okay.
That's all.
Oh, all righty. Committee reports, anybody? I only have one, in case you aren't aware. This is Commissioner Newsom's last planning commission meeting with us. And wish him well in all his future endeavors and the like. But thank you for working with us all these years.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's been a pleasure. So appreciated my time, and we've been through a lot. So
But yes, we have.
I remember some 11:30, 12 o'clock meetings when we first started out. So at the old building, so we've come
Yes.
a long way. So
Yes, we have.
Yep.
But thank you very much.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Anybody else? Motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Support.
Commissioner Newsom and Mitchell, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, everybody.
See you guys on TV.